I'm still chewing brownie. Can I take my mask off?
Yep.
And we are live, Senators.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Senate Institutions. Today is Star Wars Day, otherwise known as May the 4th be with you. And we are meeting in Senate Institutions to have an update on some conversations that have been going on. As we know, our counterparts in the House have our proposal of amendment back to them. And we have 3 topics of discussion to talk about. And I've invited Eric Philcorn to come in and give us a basic presentation about what he has understood to be happening in the House. And then I'll pick up from there with my latest conversation with Alice Emmons, Mike Marcotte, and Peter Vig. So, Eric, well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Eric Philcorn, BGS, for the record. I'm quite certain that you are more up to date on a few of these topics than I am. So I'm going to begin with the one that I know best, which is we have completed the life cycle cost assessment of the summer boiler system, which we were planning to install. That is part of the mold remediation project that's been rolled up into a larger HVAC project that has been in the works for a number of years. The cost benefit analysis is something that is required by statute that we do before we install any HVAC system. It actually kind of ties back into H518 and all of that business. But in this case, we did the math, and over 40 years, the propane system came out to be $100,000 less than the heat pump. And we felt that that was close enough for us to at least bring it to the attention of the committees in case you wanted to not withstand statute and go another way.
Just to remind us the statute.
The statute essentially requires us to do a cost benefit analysis of any heating system that we install and to default to the most cost-effective approach. And again, that's over 40 years. So they take into account the initial cost of the equipment, the cost of fuel or electricity, and we actually hire a consultant to do the math. We just give them the raw data on our power rates and the cost of propane over the past 3 years. And then they give us back the numbers. And none of this is ever perfect because markets fluctuate, but it's the best assessment.
So you're talking like $2,500 a year
Difference, yeah. But the other considerations are, were we to install a heat pump system, which is basically a big chiller, we would be doing that in the courtyard back here near the Lincoln doors, that gravelly area. And you know, in some of the conversations about future modifications to the State House, whether they occur or not, that space is in play. And so we didn't want to put something in the way of potential future use of the site. There are also some concerns about noise. These are not quiet machines. It's kind of like what we have on the roof here. And so you would have loudish fans blowing, and you have the stone walls on either side, and you'd be right up against the part of the building that has room 10 and room 11. On the other side of that, we would mostly be running it when you're not here in the summer. It's only going to run 3 or 4 months a year when humidity is high. So, yes, sir. I mean,
Russ.
Would a second system be needed to, if you were to go with the heat pump situation, would you need a backup system of fossil fuel to ensure that the heat pump would do what it's supposed to do?
I don't think so, because it's not it's not like pipes would be bursting. If that went down, we would bring in dehumidifiers and manage the building that way. So we have other ways to do it. It's not like the middle of the winter where the boiler goes and suddenly everything is freezing.
So just to throw in another component here, over the past summer and fall, committees were meeting to discuss State House expansion. And one of the things that I learned is that we have a backyard neighbor who has been not happy, I'll say, with things going on by way of sound and sight from his dooryard. And in relation to that topic, am I safe in assuming we have never actually done an acoustic study to determine the noise level of what would be added to this neighbor's concerns?
No, sir. We haven't really had enough experience with these kinds of systems to know well how they behave. I think we have one at the Westminster Police Barracks, but that's, you know, outside on the grass, not in a man-made canyon.
Committee may be reminded, we've had a couple of conversations along the way about trying to find out where one of these things is so we could go and listen to it. We obviously have not had that opportunity. So the question on this particular topic, committee, is what do you want to do if the House comes back and says, we want to override the statute and go with a heat pump as opposed to the summer boiler propane that has already been talked about?
And why would they say that?
I will not pretend to fully understand what's going on in the committee, but I did understand from the chair that there were at least a couple of people on the committee that were pressing this issue quite hard. So I have to anticipate, in order to try to avoid a committee of conference, what may be coming down the pike, and if there's any way that the chair of that committee and I can talk.
Why don't you leave it up to the people that are going to install it, your guys with the expertise?
Well, currently, you have to install the propane one, right?
By statute, we have to install it. So I think what we were trying to do was give the information to the committees, inform them that per statute, we would go with propane. And if you guys would prefer to take heroic measures to compel us to install a heat pump, we would install a heat pump, but
Who are we to decide? I mean, seriously. I mean,
We're the
let them
ones
be
that
experts.
the institute is going to give them the policy direction on where to go.
Yeah, but I mean, this is scientific, we've got to look at the.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, is let's be scientific, you know, on account of, we got the global warming thing.
Well, and it doesn't account for, at some point in the next 40 years, well, I don't want one, and I'm sure the majority of this committee want to vote for one, but I know Price Owen would. There may be a carbon tax that may increase that piece where you don't.
right.
The state by being out of that, I don't know.
In the event that something of that nature happens, do you have the ability to transfer to a different unit?
Yes, sir. And I want to be careful not to be I'm trying to be BGS providing information and not fill a puppy between the committees, but I would point out that yes, if 5 years from now you decide that you want to switch to a heat pump, or you're doing an extensive remodel on the building and there's another place that could accommodate it, we can make that change. And we have similar propane boilers in service, and we could swap it out if one's dying, or, you know, it's not a,
In the next 5-10 years, I'll tell you.
Yeah. it's not a truly sunk
Right,
cost.
but
We
we're-
can definitely reuse it.
But the boiler is a 40-year investment, right?
It's a 20 to 30 year investment. The life cycle of the life cycle analysis is over 40 years. I'm not sure why they look at that chunk of time. The expected life of a boiler is between 20 and 30 years. And the reality is we're only going to be running the thing 3 or 4 months a year. So it's probably going to last longer than your average boiler.
Janet, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Eric a question. Eric, wasn't there something that had to do with availability too? Because we really don't want to hold things up any longer than we have to.
That's another imperative. I mean, the reason that we started this project several years ago was because we have a mold problem in this building, and this boiler is here to dry out the air, to protect the artwork, to protect public health. And, you know, mold is bad in buildings. And so the sooner we get this thing installed, the sooner we can feel more confident that the building is in good shape. A propane boiler at this point is probably a little bit easier to find than a heat pump. I don't know that for sure. That's speculation on the part of our design folks, just because they're not used to sourcing things like this. So, you know, it's probably the path of least resistance to go propane.
I think we ought to cross the bridge when we get there. You've done the cost analysis, you've said what it is. We're only speculating as far as what somebody else might say. Let's wait and hear what they say, and then let's tackle it when we get there. That's what I think we ought to do.
Well, you guys have to have marching orders on what to put in, right?
And they told us.
The assumption has always been that you were gonna put in summer boiler and that the propane design was the original understanding. Now you've done a cost benefit analysis, which indicates a heat pump will be $100,000 in excess of that system. And by statute, you're saying that that means we would technically be violating the statute if we went with the heat pump system now.
That's correct, sir.
Yeah,
Yes.
but we got a magic word called notwithstanding. Okay, we can do that. We're the legislature. We write the statutes in the first place. It seems to me that I may be in a minority in this committee, but I guarantee I'm not in the minority in the world, which is we've got a crisis on our hands. And people use the word crisis slowly. I know we live in a time of extreme language. It actually is a crisis. This is a catastrophe heading towards us. And I think the priority is to not add more greenhouse gases than we have to.
My sentiment, I have no problem if we do the heat pump, and if that's what the House wants, and we get something else where I could care less, honestly, about that. I don't think that amount of money over 40 years. My guess is we come out the winning side with the heat pump, but so I agree with you on this one. But I know I'm probably not the majority of the committee, so on that either.
Trying to anticipate something that I don't know yet will come to fruition, but I wanted you guys to be able to.
I wouldn't fight it if it came in the House, me personally. Like, I would accept it and say, okay.
There would be a request for additional funds in next year's capital bill to cover the cost difference, but and this assumes that it will go in the courtyard. If we were to try to put it up the hill, there'd be blasting, there'd be neighbors, there'd be other costs. So this is the least cost version.
That's where I'm getting a little bit nervous. But Janet,
I still am concerned a little bit, Eric, about the timing of the whole project to get done for the HVAC system. Because if we don't do this summer, because we can't get a heat pump, and I'm not saying heat pump is the right or wrong thing, it will delay the whole project, right? Because isn't that the first step for completing the HVAC system that we're already pushing out to 20 or further?
I don't think that the other elements of the project would be delayed by this. You know, air handling units are still handling air. The heat pump is there to dry out
Just
the
for the
air.
summer. Okay.
So we'd just be
Thank you.
moving wet air around, and we are also spending about $30,000 a year running the dehumidifiers off session. So that's a lot of labor and electricity in the building for as long as we don't have a summer boiler. Even if
Solar on the dome.
You get some
nice solar
up there.
yeah, is
From a
that
committee
further amendment, sir?
you guys are up to speed with what the potential discussion is going to be about. That was the intent of this discussion right now.
I think
I'll need to have an official vote. I just want to make you aware of what the potential conversation is coming up. I'm going to say again, a little bit nervous about doing something without having an acoustic study even if that delays implementation, you'd hate to have that particular part of it come back and bite us. But you know where the conversation is, that was the intent. Walleye guys, you want to bring us up to speed on that issue?
I'm afraid I don't have any new information on the walleyes other than my impression from speaking with Alice was that her desire was to codify the notion that the self-cleaning tanks were a one-time appropriation and not an indication that the walleye guys would be getting 50,000 going forward. But I would encourage you to.
Well, we can't write that in the bill for next year. You can't do that.
Of course, a future legislature.
No, I mean, so.
It can be
They
clear
may
that
be-
this year doesn't
they may
commit
be-
us.
Again, I don't
Just
want to
so-
represent her position.
Just so you know, there's conversation pushed back a little bit, which would effectively say the 25 grand extra this year is for the specific purpose of purchasing these new tanks.
Yeah.
Leaving it at that means following budget cycles, that lane will be there anyway, man, right, for the additional 25.
Have the walleye guys ever gone into the house?
They have not.
I mean, that's what they should do, and then Alice will follow them, just like you guys did.
Order of operations, they've always come and asked for money here. It's never happened
Well, that's
upstairs.
not on their part, I think. I mean, that doesn't show very, I mean, great, what you're saying. to
I don't think you know the
them.
process.
I know, well, they ought to learn right now.
Yeah,
Well, in fairness, I myself am kind of scared to go into that.
Well, come on, Joe, Jesus Christ, go to murder trial.
Yeah, I got 4.5 minutes, I gotta boot all of you out here because I'm in a court hearing.
okay.
So you're
But
not afraid of
I
that?
got one more thing to talk about, that's actually the biggest one, and that's the nursing program. When the issue left here, we took 3 million, I keep referring to it in a way that sounds like I'm not using the proper vernacular. We are blessed with bonded money, meaning we are obligating ourselves to get whatever figure we put down. It's not cash on hand. So unlike approps where they take $6 million out of a budget they've already got, we, on the other hand, are anticipating bonding for X number of dollars. In our case, 4 million had been set aside. 4 million by way of bonded money had been set aside for the nursing program. When we got that in front of us, we took limited testimony and heard that they were not anywhere near ready with any particular project, had no idea what they had to do to get through the tape, and that there were several entities who were talking about getting some of this money. And there was virtually no discussion about what state entity was going to be in charge of doling it out and receiving it in the first place. We ended up giving them 1 million targeted in order to entice them to continue that conversation. That's basically the way I saw it when it left this room. They went back to the House. The House has been taking some more testimony on the subject, and there was a plan put forth within the past 24 hours that effectively said they would design a certain amount for college A, another for college B, and still had some missing language, but the bottom line is they've taken more testimony on the subject than they did prior to it coming here.
They're not going to bill.
We have, I say me, Alice Emmons, Mike Marcotte, and Peter Fagan had a conversation while you guys were on the floor. And essentially, it's my understanding that the capital bill will be left the way we sent it out here. In other words, the 1 million targeted will be the figure they may get from here. They are working on either a potential in their capital bill or some other language to design it in such a way that the capital bill will be left alone. Possibly they would get something from approach if that was deemed appropriate. But I wanted you all to know, we hopefully have settled the issue and it's in our favor. I began trying to avoid the need for a committee conference. I don't want to get these two committees hung up.
Oh, you made progress.
Having said that, Alice feels like she's got a couple of people in her committee that are out of control. And it may be that they want to come down and make pitches to us. I don't know that that's going to happen.
I have just an utmost want for that program to succeed. I want it to succeed. I just want it to. But I really have a problem whether it's even a capital expense, because they had said right there that they didn't really think that those classrooms or those, what they wanted to buy would last 20 years. And for it to be a capital expense, that's what it's gonna be, correct?
Supposed to outlive the debt.
Exactly. And I don't think it's going to. So the fact that they are gonna seek money elsewhere, I'm happy for them. I don't think that we have to have people come in here and try to badger us.
Too late.
And let's just get out of here on May 6th.
Can I tell the committee members the same thing on the other two subjects we've just talked about? So if person A wants to come down and make a pitch for an HVAC system that's propane versus heat pump, or heat pump versus propane, do we want to come back and have that conversation?
I think it's over. I think it's over. I think it's over. And,
Well, it sounds 2-2 wherever the chair lands, just decides where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are colleagues here. And in terms of coming down and pitching for the HVAC thing, you know, I agree with them. I'd like to, maybe they do a better job
What
than
are we
I
gonna-
do.
Who are we gonna hear from different than him?
Well,
I don't know.
talking about legislators
We were
coming
talking-
down.
I don't know, I mean, I wanna,
Right.
you're a professional, I mean, you work with us every day. So who else am I gonna listen to? Some guy that's got a furnace at home or something, or?
No, legislators who want us to lobby us.
Oh,
go the other
I thought
way.
a professional or wants it.
No, it's members of the House committee.
No. Why they get, I mean, come on, but you gotta rely on somebody that understands what's going on here, I think. This is a different league. Am I wrong? What do you know?
But I don't think anyone is disputing anyone's understanding, no matter what do you want to do with that. Think it's done,
There may not be anything to do with if the House comes back and says, we're gonna do a summer boiler that's propane, that's in line with the statute as it currently exists, and with the understanding of what we had when it all was last discussed in here. If they come back and say, we want to do heat pump instead, there may be additional questions like how much time is that going to take? What studies do you need to do? Do we anticipate any potential litigation from next door neighbor? That's the kind of stuff that.
What are we being asked to do right now? What would be that? You give it to me one more time.
If the House chooses to do nothing, we will follow statute and install a propane boiler.
And you like that? Is your company, your,
We are, I think we're almost in Senator Parent's school of thought. If the legislature chooses to direct us otherwise, we will do otherwise. We will fight the war you want us to fight. But
but the expertise tells us what? The discussion you've had with people who understand this business. Have you
That-
had any discussion?
that if,
Not me off the street.
no, I mean, we've had consultants do the cost benefit analysis.
Yes.
We've had we have possibly unfounded but rational supply chain concerns. We have noise concerns that haven't been fully vetted. So there are a lot of what ifs on the heat pump side.
There's one ifs on one side, on the
Yeah.
heat pump, but on the propane boiler, there's no what ifs.
It's very basic. There'll be an exhaust vent out the side of the building and it'll be, interchangeable with other systems. It's not,
I
you
would
got
say,
you got the pros and cons but on the con, one of the cons on the propane is that it contributes to global warming. And I don't think it's a matter of expertise, Senator Austin. Have I been mispronouncing your name all these years?
Well, I heard of McCormack.
Well, it is. No, it actually is.
McCormack.
That is my name. McCormick is a mispronunciation, but it's so common that I never correct it. Why would you correct me? Why bother? Anyway, I was saying, I don't think it's a question of expert. I think we all agree on what the facts are. The question is what do you want to make of it? And in my view, the global warming issue cancels the advantages of the propane. Maybe it doesn't if you're here.
Everything's gonna change in 5 years anyway, like I said, it'll be something different. If we're gonna do that, we go to sun country,
Solar.
solar. Don't wanna do that, why don't you do solar?
Because it's
Yeah.
dark over there.
There's 58 solar panels. It's cool. Let's see how much money extra I make every year.
Well, no, I mean, that's what, to me, that's the energy.
Or nuclear, right, you go to nuclear plant someplace.
But I've gone solar, so when my furnaces go,
Fill my
heat pumps are going in. Solar is going to feed my, I'm doing this for my apartment.
So Joe, Steve Chairman, Chair Bennett,
Yes, sir.
so where do we stand right now? Is
Where we
if
stand
everybody's in
right
the
now
city,
is-
we got a good bill.
Right now, we have a bill, we have a plan. If the plan changes, you will be hearing about it coming back from the other
Okay.
side. We will need to figure out what to do.
Take your syrup home, Joe, I'm gonna sell it.
Me too, I wanna sell that.
Okay.
As long as you give me a commission.
I'm taking us off YouTube.